Hi, everybody. So, Eisa Nefertari Ulen is the author of Crystal Morning, a novel described by the Washington Post as a call for healing in the African American community from generations of hurt and neglect. Eisa is a recipient of the Frederick Douglass Creative Arts Center Fellowship for Young African American Fiction Writers, a Provincetown Fine Arts Work Center Fellowship, and a National Association of Black Journalists Award. Her essays on African American culture have been widely anthologized, and most recently, Black Parenting Matters in Who Do You Serve and Who Do You Protect, which won the Social Justice Advocacy Award for 2017 from the School Library Journal's In the Margins Book Committee. Eisa has contributed to The Hollywood Reporter, Essence, Parents, The Washington Post, Miss Health, Ebony, The Huffington Post, Pen.org, Los Angeles Review of Books, The Root, Truth Out, The Defenders Online, The Griot, and Creative Nonfiction. Eisa graduated from St. Lawrence College and earned a master's degree from Columbia University. She has taught literature at Hunter College and the Pratt Institute. A founding member of Ring Shadow, a place for Black literature, she lives with her husband and son in Brooklyn. Also, she will be available in the faculty room after this and also in East Dining Hall. Please join me in warmly welcoming Miss Ulen.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak at your beautiful school. I'm really honored to be here, and thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm here to talk to you about the movement for Black lives. I want to speak from my heart and from a personal perspective. First, though, I want to give you some history and go way back to 1991. When I was a little bit older than you are now. I'm sure most of you don't know who Rodney King was. I'm here to tell you, Rodney King changed everything. He was just a regular guy, a construction worker. And one night after watching a basketball game with a couple of friends, Rodney King was speeding along the streets of Los Angeles in his car. The police saw him, chased him with their flashing lights and sirens. And instead of stopping, Rodney King kept driving. He led officers on a high-speed chase. Now, high-speed chases are actually quite common in LA, so that fact is not the thing that changed everything. What happened next was also common in Los Angeles in the 1980s. And around this country, and remains so today. King was beaten by LAPD officers. But even that is not the thing that changed everything. In fact, King's beating would not have meant much to anyone other than Rodney King and his friends and their family and friends who loved them. The fact that a Black man was beaten by police in Los Angeles or anywhere else would not have shocked me, would not have stripped me of a kind of innocence when I was close to your age. Even in bucolic, semi-rural Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where I grew up, my father would sometimes say, "Watch out for the sheets," meaning the Ku Klux Klan. So from my earliest childhood, I knew, was taught by the people who love me, that the LAPD were known for beating Black bodies. I knew that the Boston police could be really racist. I knew that back in those days, the NYPD was easily bribed. I knew that the Jersey State troopers were particularly vicious, and that you didn't want to get pulled over in the great state of Alabama. These were lessons I learned so that I could survive. So King's beating was in no way extraordinary. It was like countless beatings of Black bodies, bodies beaten over hundreds of years in this country, except for one important difference. The Rodney King beating was caught on tape. The videotaped recording of the Rodney King beating aired on national news and offered a kind of vindication to Black people like me. See, the videotape said for us, those of us who were always silenced on the margins of American society. See what they do to us? See? Surely these officers would be punished. I was so naive. I remember clearly the day I heard the verdict in the Rodney King case. I was riding an exercise bike in my parents' suburban home, listening to the radio as I pedaled away, when the radio personality of a local station stopped the music in the middle of a song to make an announcement. The 4 officers charged in the Rodney King beating were acquitted of all charges. The videotape had meant nothing, had done nothing. The shock of the verdict animated my body, which had already been in motion, burning energy. I sat up on the stationary bike and yelled out in my parents' home, "No!" I even beat the wall behind me. Remember, it's not that I couldn't believe the beating took place. I couldn't believe the officers who did the beating, who were caught on video, would walk. I was no longer naive. I understood. For us, there is no justice. You, young people, are not as naive as I was when I was close to your age. After all, you have grown up with video taken like this. And the proliferation of new technology has meant that police officers have been caught on tape many, many times now. You have seen 12-year-old Tamir Rice shot dead by a Cleveland officer within seconds of the police car's arrival. You have seen Walter Scott shot in the back by a South Carolina officer. You watched Philando Castile die. You are witnesses. I should share here a little bit about who I am. Someone in my family has served this country in every military conflict since the Civil War. I come from a family of business owners, physicians, teachers, nurses, lawyers, even a judge. I am not the first in my family to go to college. My grandmother had a master's degree. My husband and I come from a long line of property owners. We pay our taxes. This is who I am speaking to you. Just last month, my cousin, who's actually around your age, a little bit older than you, shared a story with me of being pulled over by an officer as she drove to her suburban home. Her stepfather is a federal air marshal. Her mother, my aunt, does security clearances for the national government, for the federal government. Our grandfather served in World War II. She was driving from her home as a nurse when an officer pulled her over for a simple lane change violation. And she told me, months after this had taken place, "Eisa, I couldn't stop shaking." "Oh, honey," is what I said. It was all I could say. I was just so scared. I couldn't stop shaking, And then I was crying. "Stop crying," she said the officer kept telling her. But she couldn't stop. "I'm sorry," she said, she told the officer, and kept saying, "I'm so sorry. I'm afraid. I'm sorry. I'm just afraid. I'm sorry. I'm just afraid." Crying, shaking, hitting a wall. There is a physical component to this evil, to racism. This racism gets in us, gets into us, enters us, our bodies, and alters them. Us, our beautiful black bodies. There is a beast bigger than a billy club that allows the billy club to smash our black bodies. It is called white supremacy. And it is why we have had to say, are still saying, Black Lives Matter. Clearly, I am much older than you are now, and I am talking to you as a mother. And I'm saying to you as a mother that all of you matter too. You matter because you can do something. When I was preparing for this presentation, I was deciding what I would tell you. I had this whole list of ideas. Start a white affinity group to discuss privilege. Form a Black Lives Matter club to help the movement for Black lives. Talk to your parents. Write a letter to an elected official. Go to Color of Change. Check out the Black Youth Project. But then September 20th happened, Greta Thunberg happened, and I realized, who am I to tell you what to do? You young people are leading the way already for all of us. What I can share with you that might be helpful is what I am doing. And what I am doing is everything I can for my 10-year-old son. My son. My child's breath is a freedom song. In, out, in, out, in, out. The rhythmic pulse of air he powers is love, is life, is liberation. In, out. My child is breath. I'm alive, he says with each inhalation. I am here, his body offers with each exhalation. Each breath is a life force, and each life force is a gift, is holy. He is divine. He is more than mere existence. He is complex sinew, meat, blood, mind, matter, running, laughing, playing, smiling, healthy. He is boy in motion, chasing balls, jumping rivers, leaping meadows, climbing trees. He is an idea made flesh. He is a rebellion, a riot, a rage against the machine. At a Black Lives Matter protest, my son sounded a call. What do we want? He also sang the response, justice. The drumbeat of our fellow marchers punctuated this question, when do we want it? And he knew the answer, now. My son is the revolution. This is why. 12 million to 20 million African people were stolen across the Middle Passage. About half did not survive the journey. From 1882 to 1968, there were 3,446 recorded lynchings of Black people in the United States. That averages to about 40 people of African descent hanged, sliced, torched, drowned, beaten, hacked each year. That averages to about 3 to 4 lynchings per month, which averages to, every week or so, 1 Black body lynched, 1 Black body clawed by white mobs. To survive this is to be a revolution, the inheritor of revolution. We are the children of those who survived. My husband, son, and I are their promise song. Because of them, we are here. And our survival is a revolutionary act. For African Americans, survival is a daily act of intentionality and purpose. Survival is a daily ritual Black people must perform. Survival is item number 1 on a daily to-do list. I am a Black woman on a mission. I fear police violence, the merciless criminalization of brown boys. I fear the dehumanization of Black people that makes the police so swift in their use of force. From January 1, 2015 to May 30, 2015, at least 385 people have been shot and killed by police in the United States. This does not include the numbers of Americans killed while in police custody. Of the victims who were unarmed, about 2/3 were Black or Latino. An August 16th LA Times article written this year reported that 1 in 1,000 Black men and boys can expect to die by the hands of police. That makes my husband, father, uncle, cousin, son 2.5 times more likely than white men and boys to die during an encounter with police. I fear more than police brutality. I also fear the lies that fuel police terror. I fear the systemic way stories about Black people's encounters with the police are twisted and turned by the voice of the state. I fear the way the narrative is controlled by the state so that even our experiences don't belong to us. I have experienced the terror of state forces circumscribing Black life. I have witnessed the incrimination of Black people, seen the state blame them for their marginalization. We have been kicked down and then blamed for being so low. This I have seen with my own eyes. Rodney King deserved to be beaten. Trayvon Martin was not crying for help. Walter Scott was threatening the officer as he ran away. Eric Gardner could breathe, could breathe, could breathe. Cell phone cameras have offered a kind of counter-narrative to these tales. We bear witness. We do. We Black folk, we remember and tell the truth of what happened, what continues to happen to us. My husband and I continue to craft counter-narratives to the prevailing mythologies regarding Black life. My husband and I parent our child as a counter-narrative, as truth. He is brilliant, beautiful, precious, perfect. He is the embodiment of his parents' love. Our love is revolutionary too. Every whisper I send across his brow tells him this. I tell him, we are the descendants of those who survived. I know this because I am here. Our charge from the ancients is transparent, explicit, and plain. Live. I must ensure that my son lives. Despite the terror that is this state, he must live. Do not reach into your pockets when stopped by police. Do not flinch or swerve, and do not ever, ever run. When the police ask for your identification, ask them for permission to get it. Ask them for permission to reach into the exact pocket or bag before you get the very thing that they just told you to get. Maintain your cool while all of this is happening. Politely say, please call my parents and they can answer your questions. They will continue to ask you questions. Do not answer their questions. Do not say, officer, I was coming from over there, or officer, I was on my way over here. Do not give them any information at all. Get as much information as you can. Try to remember the officers' names, the street address or cross streets where you have been stopped. If you can, try to memorize badge numbers. They will continue to ask you questions. Just tell them you cannot speak to them unless your parents are present. The questions might continue. They might handcuff you and take you to a precinct. There, the questions will become an interrogation. You must only say, I have to wait for my parents to come to me. Your parents will come to you. We will find you. In the meantime, remain silent and just know this, we who love you are coming. I do not want to instruct my son this way. How do I free him from the shackles of psychological death, from the death of the mind, and from the shackles of emotional death, from the death of the spirit, as I free him from the oppressor looming all around? The only antidote, really, is to give him the tools to be fully invested in his own liberation. This means showing him how to write protest banners and discussing the contributions to the freedom movement made by Ruby Bridges and Bayard Rustin, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Frederick Douglass. To enable his full investment in liberation, we also discuss his contributions to the movement. We march with the masses in this Black Lives Matter era and show him the line he walks to move us closer to full recognition of our humanity. He is on a continuum, a path stretching through time. We pray that the same spirit that overcame the overseer will live in him and overcome the officers who act like overseers when they police Black and brown bodies. Enabling his full investment in liberation also means exposing him to the teachings and care of others who will not commit microaggressions, act on internalized white supremacy, and undo our work. We have come this far and refuse to go back. We as a people have come so far. I held fast to my belly the night Barack Obama became the first Black president. Our son rested there, living inside me as we danced in the streets, celebrating. Later that night, my husband and I discussed the wonder of it all, that our child's first president would be a black man, that he would never know life without a black president, that a black president would be normal to him, that a white president would be a diversion from this norm. We became more intentional in our liberation parenting that night. We discussed ways we would parent to freedom. Guiding our child to a freer way of being in the Black Lives Matter era is only the newest iteration of African American survival. My husband and I refuse to allow anyone to dim our child's light. We refuse to allow the weight and woe of this world to wear on him. We insist that he triumph. We insist on his victory. We advocate and challenge, and we resist. We resist racist violence. This occupation of the black body will not be his experience. Our ancestors stole time from their owners to teach young people how to survive. Our grandparents snatched time from their employers to teach young people how to survive. We take time to do the same. We know saying Black Lives Matter is another way of saying black is beautiful. We know our beautiful black sun matters. Thank you.